Hey guys, Corey from Free Play here. We're back doing another warehouse walkthrough. I believe this is number 4. This is our staging warehouse. This is where we stage games just before they go out to the arcades. These are probably my favorite stores that we have, and we're gonna dive right into it. So as you can see, some of these things are coming either right off the floor or about to go off to the floor. This is a Carnival that we just got shipped in. Carnival, it being Halloween, we actually just put another Carnival out on the floor. This one didn't make it, but I'm sure it will one day. We've got these minis that we're starting to use, or the cabarets, for the Arcade Anywhere project, where we place games in other locations that aren't free play locations, such as Alamo Draft House, Lakewood Brewery, and we've got a couple other breweries coming around that we're about to start putting some games in. And these cabarets are nice little units. They're rare, they're cool, and they take up less space, so we can put more games into a smaller location. I guess we'll come around here. This is a really interesting game that came in. So Karate Champ's never been released, and if you watch this video, this is probably the second or third that you've seen. This one actually, someone built a switcher between Miss PAC Man and Karate Champ. Pretty cool. We just got this in to get to the floor. I haven't really evaluated it yet, very much. And then right here, we'll come around. Looks like Capcom CBS1, the one that no one wants to play, but if you've noticed lately in our auction videos or our tours, we're trying desperately to acquire as many of these Dynamo cut corners in good condition as possible, because as we've grown, it used to be really, really easy to find these Dynamo cut corners. Now it's quite difficult. All right, and then we're gonna, hold on. This is a nice Arkanoid cocktail. It was scheduled to be released for Denton, and we ended up getting an upright for them instead, or going with one of our upright models, as the cocktail plan that we had didn't really pan out, and it turns out that the uprights just work better at that location. This was something that got accidentally purchased. I sent one of our pickers to pick up 3 games. Next thing I knew, Arm Champs 2 came back to us. The nice thing about Arm Champs 2, it had a gorgeous, beautiful, real CRT monitor that we were able to use. For those of you wondering, it never actually worked. It had some gear issue, some motor issue. I think they're pretty cool. I think we actually have to file a special insurance requirement or insurance specification if we want to have an arm wrestling machine in one of our arcades. And I just found a tool that I've probably been missing, gosh, for a year or two. I do think these are cool. I just don't think we'll make it to free play with one of them. And now we'll walk around really quick and catch this pinball. And in this storage, you might notice we're staging quite a bit of pinball. Over the past few weeks, we've increased our pinball. This is a really cool NBA Fast Break. This used to be at Free Play Arlington, and it has a very minor shutdown issue. This should be back out soon, probably at a different location. And the great thing about NBA Fast Break is we have 2 of them in the collection. I don't think you've seen the other one yet. They link together, and you can actually play basketball against each other through pinball games. Really cool. But we've totally revamped our pinball lineups at all of our locations, and it just in general beefed up our numbers. Oh, I guess I walked right past this Gorf Cabaret. Guys, y'all need to play Gorf more. Every time we put it out, everyone asks for it, and then no one ever plays it. And I think it's a really cool game that y'all should all love just as much as us. Oh, this is one of the tragedies, a Sega Carnival. Rare game, in amazing condition, cocktail right here, and the monitor just would not cooperate. Game's still playing. We need to get a replacement CRT for it. It's a small 13-inch, or maybe an 11-inch, but really cool game that we have to get out. Then we've got just some standard cocktails that we always buy, a Miss PAC, a Galaxian, and Asteroids, and a Space Invaders. All of these are working in great shape. We're just not really sure what to do with all our cocktails yet. Next to a Gauntlet Legends, or a Gauntlet Legends without the Dark Legacy kit. If I know anything about this game, it's probably has monitor chassis issues that we've been dealing with. We have a Gauntlet Dark Legacy at Richardson and Gauntlet Legends at Arlington. And we think it's a really cool game. It's kind of like a weird, cheesy, late 90s version of Gauntlet. So hopefully we'll get this out soon. But these chassis on these medium res monitors have been just very difficult. Next to it, and we'll catch it on the other side, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, next to a 4-slot Neo Geo that we just need to polish up and get out. Next to the broken Killer Instinct 2 that I think you've probably seen 2 or 3 times, because as we've been recording these, we've still been moving games, and there's probably not a day that we don't move 5 to 10 games depending on what needs to be worked on, what's going in, what's going out. And so this just somehow ended up at this storage, and I don't actually know the reason. It probably just ran out of truck space. Next to another game that's really cool that's been glitchy. It's called Demolish Fish. It's an Thomas Wave game in an Thomas Wave cabinet. It got nicked or bent or something. We need to bin that metal back in and get it out. But it's a really, really cool game that we've brought to Let's Play Gaming, I believe, twice now. So we're big fans. Next to a tournament Arkanoid that lost its monitor. I believe the monitor and the spinner on that went to the Arkanoid that's now at Denton, just as part of a last second, just before you open when you're scrambling to find out where all the games fit. We realized that our Arkanoid solution wasn't working, so we just changed it, put a regular Arkanoid out with the tournament Arkanoid monitor and spinner. Next to a UMK3, definitely the best of the MK3s and really popular game. It's a Dynamo Cab, so it's not dedicated. We probably wouldn't put it out. I'm sure we bought it because it's a Dynamo Cup corner cabinet. And like I said earlier, we've been buying as many as possible. If you watch some of the auction videos, you'll see these are the Varoom cabinets that had nice monitors that we are scheduling to either use the monitors, use the cabinets, or whatnot. All of these, if they're at this location, they redeemed some of the better Varooms. And a lot of people have asked us what our plan is with the Varooms. Truthfully, we're gonna evaluate the wood on the cabinets. Most of the cabinets were pretty good. Most of them had really rough monitors, so we're still working on figuring out the exact way, since they had been converted to this weird Varoom art packages and painted over and everything. But they definitely had a ton of really great parts. And of course, if you watched our auction video, you know they had real arcade PCBs. And this is the Fat Boy, Big Boy Varoom. Here's a Sunset Riders. Looks like it has lost its chassis. Those K7000s, we send the chassis out sometimes. We do the work in-house sometimes. It's a hole. Those K7000s just really hate to keep working. Next to probably the coolest game that we can get back out. This is our most reliable pinball ever. It's the original Black Knight by Williams. It was a launch game for Free Play Richardson. It's been at Free Play Richardson again a few more times. I think it's wonderful and awesome. It plays a little slow. So most people are in modern pinball really looking for that speed, but it's a true all-time classic with some really great shots. And then we've got, this is a nice preview because this should be heading to Arlington shortly, and you won't be able to see it very much. This is a Tron Legacy. It's probably the nicest I've ever seen. It's got Invisiglass, a ton of LED mods to make it really pop. Really, really cool. This is the T2 that was at Richardson. This is an all-original T2, which I prefer in many ways to some of the LED mods that have been done to it. But ultimately, T2 has these long, long shots that we were having issues using the appropriate coils to make the shots. So we pulled them off the floor while we kind of reevaluate how we're going to do Terminator 2. You probably saw a Terminator 2 pinball in our second walkthrough video. That one's a different one. Hopefully that one's going to be out soon. Next to a really, really cool, really rare head-to-head pinball. In the late 80s, Alvin Gottlieb wanted to make pinball again. And I guess he was the third or second in the line of the Gottlieb family. And he couldn't use his own name because they no longer could release pinball name Gottlieb. So it's Alvin G & Co. And if you look, he's got his name, he can put his real name on there, and he's got Alvin Gottlieb there, right? But they were trying to get the impression of Gottlieb as much as possible to kind of get some name recognition without being able to say it. But Alvin Gottlieb soccer ball, really, really cool pinball. One of the coolest we've ever had. The biggest issue with this is no one has any parts for it. It's super, super rare. And it uses these really cool single player flippers. So the flippers have these switches on them so that they'll kick the flipper out. That way you can play this 1 or 2 players. It was very difficult for us in a free play environment to keep it going, though I believe in a coin play, we could have them working just fine. So we're hoping we find a home for that soon. Now we're gonna have to walk all the way back around. And you always know you're at a free play storage when you see CRTs on the ground. I don't know the story on any of these CRTs. I believe they all came as part of a massive, massive lot purchase and are all untested that just recently came in. Here's our Killer Instinct 2 control panel for that broken KI2 over there. This is really cool. It's a full kit and with really good wood. Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. And it's in maybe a Joust cabinet. And it has the Hall effect joysticks, all the right appropriate buttons, and it's in really, really good shape. The interesting thing here, this was just given to us. This is another game that just got left at our back step just for free because someone just was tired of having it in their house. And if you know anything, that's a really great get for us, especially with the true joysticks. The game was in rough shape. If we turn it on, the monitor is not really displaying an image, and there's some game glitches. So I can understand why they probably listed on Craigslist and had issues selling it. But there's a lot of not only value here, but a lot of awesome parts for us to bring back to life in another dedicated Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. So really rare to see a full kit Escape, but we also have these dedicated ones we've been trying to get out, just couldn't source parts. This solved all of it, and it just randomly appeared like magic. Let's see, we'll try to, oh, that's that Arkanoid. We'll have to go back around and kind of dig ourselves out. All right, guys, so we got more CRTs. If you've ever, oh no, we've gone over this a few times. Confidential Mission, one of my favorite games, unfortunately, has parts that are more valuable than almost any Confidential Mission cabinet. And though it is one of my favorite games, you can get them really inexpensively. This one was $75 with parts that were probably worth substantially more, at least to us. So here's that Sunset Riders. I was missing the chassis. Here is our Bad Dudes that we got so close for a President's Day event, and that's always been our dream, is to bring a Bad Dudes out for President's Day, since your whole objective there is to save the president while being a good dude. So we love it. I think it's really goofy. This is the dedicated cabinet for Bad Dudes. So we're really pleased. So now I'm gonna carefully step over a couple monitors and try to get into position. So this is, you'll see some extra game tables, some extra scaffolding, a pallet jack, and some of the questions we get sometimes are like, what are the stranger things that you have to acquire if you're gonna own an arcade? It's certainly one that's operating in this form or fashion. And it's, things like scaffolding that we've used numerous times to paint things, to work on things that are high up in our locations. Pallet jacks when we get palleted shipments. And one like this, which if I remember correctly, you won't really be able to make it out, but this is 78 panes of pinball glass. And fortunately, we've only had to use about 5 or 6 of them, but anytime we have a pane break, we have it. This is, it's actually treated laminate glass too, so it's not quite Invisiglass, but given how fast we go through these and how kind of reckless our customers can be, that is a great solution for us, and we always have them on hand just in case something happens. So I don't actually know the story of this exact Marble Madness. I can't remember, but it's beautiful. I love it, and we need to get it out like right away. Marble Madness is one of the best releases we've had. We were the first people to bring it back to Texas in a very long time in a public arcade. And it's at Free Play Richardson right now. I think it's one of my favorite date games, favorite 2-player games that we have, Atari System 1. This one's in great shape. I gotta plug it in and get it out. So while we came around here, and now I remember this game a lot more. This was one of these hodgepodge Konami cabinets that come in some of our lot purchases. We've got an X-Pin marquee. We've actually got an X-Men plexiglass with the space for 3 buttons, but it still has the Sunset Rider control panel overlay and a Sunset Rider side art. And of course, as you saw, it's missing a monitor chassis. And if you look at the coin doors and everything, it's in very rough condition, but these Konami games we can't get enough of. The joysticks obviously are long gone. Those Konami joysticks have now become basically gold. There's no good aftermarket version of them. You just need these, if they're Wico joysticks, they're I think 3.5 inches long. And if you have any and you're watching this, send me an email, I'll buy them all. All right, next to a pretty good looking Space Invaders. I'm sure it's just, we have Space Invaders already at each location, so it's just an extra. Next to a not so good looking Crazy Taxi. If you've been to our Free Play Denton location or watched our Free Play Denton walkthrough, we have a Naomi stand-up Crazy Taxi there. I imagine we bought this as part of the same lot so that we could build a really good one. And if you've been to Free Play Denton, you know that one's really nice. So thanks to this one, we were able to get that one really nice. Right here, we've got a game that really I think we should get out. We'll see if we get a good adoption. The first Virtua Cop, I think, is this just absolute gem and treasure in time. But it's a similar kind of game to Confidential Mission. It's in the big Sega cabinet. Really cool. Okay, and then over here, you've probably seen this. This might have even appeared in the very first walkthrough. This is our side-by-side versus Nintendo. We've sent it to deep storage just because we need parts here that we haven't been able to source yet. And there's no good way to source them unless if we buy a whole new cabinet, including some of the metal parts, some of the brackets inside. So we've kind of shelved the restore until we're able to pick up another one. Next to a Play Choice 10, is missing its bottom monitor. I believe, if I remember correctly, we had another Play Choice tin that just had the monitor actually kind of lose every part of functionality, melted down, burnt resistors. And the same night we were able to come over here, grab this one, and put it in there. And so within probably an hour to an hour and a half of a complete meltdown of a monitor where there was, I mean, electrolytic fluid splattering everywhere, we were able to have our Play Choice tin up. And that's the great thing about being able to buy these parts cabinets. They come to us and they're in pretty rough shape. They might not be working in terms of their gameplay, their buttons might be rough. The cabinet here is obviously in very rough shape, but the parts have a ton of value for us. And that's probably kind of a controversial thing for us to say, because in many ways we do wish we could restore every single game that comes to us. But for example, this kind of woodwork is going to be extremely difficult to get quite right. So if you're interested and you're watching these videos and you see something here that you just want to tackle a restoration on, shoot me an email and we'll sell it to you cheap. We're not just hoarding them just for parts. We do want to bring them back to life. So if you have a good plan, shoot me an email, Corey@freeplayinc.com. Right here, we need to get this one back out. It's our MVSU 4 Candy in really, really nice shape, really quite rare, especially rare here in Dallas, Texas. And we have a Super Neo 29 right now over at our Arlington location. And you saw Neo 29, another one, at our first walkthrough video, but that one I think is just a really, really nice play style. All right, guys, we popped up on the scaffolding so that we can get kind of a zoom in view of some of the games we weren't able to walk to just because it's packed in so deep. And let's start really quick right back here. We've got a House of the Dead. I have a soft spot, and if you've noticed in these walkthroughs, this might be the second or third House of the Dead we've seen, in addition to the ones that we already have out. I just kind of have a soft spot for the game. I think it's a great bar game, but at the same time, it's not the most played, so we're still working on that. Next to a Galaga. We always buy Galaga. If you've watched our videos, you know that. Now this is kind of another game that we really need to get out. Our whole Century collection, we have all of them. The Vanguards and the Phoenixes and everything, and we need to get them out. They're in these really cool cabinets, and we haven't been able to get any of them out. Vanguard, this one is really, really close, and we're trying to now, since we have them all, and you'll probably see them all in these walkthroughs, we're gonna try to get them all kind of together in one big release. We'll see how it goes. Next to two, I think they're 33-inch CRTs. These are some of the very last CRTs that were imported into America. Now the size isn't great. They're probably medium res, which means they're not useful in some games, but nevertheless, brand new inbox CRTs we almost always buy. All right, and let's see, oh, and there's another, right next to the House of the Dead, we've got a Pleiades, which is another one of these cool Century cabs. Next to a Buck Rogers, which I think is a cool game. It just doesn't get very much play. We need to get that back out. Next to a Sega Turbo, which is a super cool game that none of y'all will play. It's one of the most crushing things that we've ever put out. That's one of the nicest Sega Turbos I've ever seen. But maybe the gameplay is just too primitive. I don't know. It hasn't gone well for us. Next to looks like a Zybots, another cool game we need to get out. Next to, I believe it's called Spray Gun. That is, so we put that out for a Weird Game Week, and we might have talked about it previously on a podcast. That is the game where you actually shake up a spray can of like pesticide and you kill the bugs on the screen. It was probably the strangest game we put out for Weird Games Week, and I think I just bought it on a lark because it was so bizarre to me. I think it's technically a kid's game, but it's really violent and you're really killing these bugs. It's really interesting. There's another Confidential Mission, like I said, one of my favorite games, but also one of the best parts buys we ever get the chance to. We've already gotten that Neo Geo 4 slot, and that's the Atari Millipede that we launched Free Play Richardson with. What we really learned over the course is people just prefer Centipede. I think Millipede I like Millipede slightly more, but Centipede always gets more play, so we've now pretty much just have Centipede at most of our locations. Next to the Outrun that was at Arlington, a really tough game. We're trying to get another Outrun out right at this exact moment. But we've noticed that the force feedback on the steering wheel, once those gears start to go, and once people, whether they're kids, adults, it doesn't really matter, people having a nice drink, when they lean on them and they put a bunch of pressure on them, they chop up those gears really fast. So it just wasn't really able to survive yet at a free play, but we're working on it. Next to a Rough Miss Pack, next to a Big Buck Hunter Pro. You'll see a few of these Big Buck Hunter Pros as we go through this different warehouses. We have one out at Free Play Arlington, and we did one of our very first videos was about the importance of these bar games during the 2000s, where they kind of golden tee, big buck, and some of the stranger ones like Extreme Hunting and the Silver Ball bowling game. I just spaced on. Those games really carried the arcade scene, for better or worse, for 10 or 12 years. So without them, we might not have any new arcades right now, and we might not have some of the parts support that we still have thanks to those games being produced throughout the 2000s. Next to that, ooh, I'm not quite sure what that is. Let's see. Oh no, that's why I didn't recognize it. So that's a Beachhead 2000. One of the very first games I ever purchased was a Beachhead 2000. That's technically their Cabaret, and despite it being a Cabaret, it has a 27-inch monitor in there. And I think I bought it way before free play was even an idea, because the price, not only was the price right, that's one of the best cabinets to kind of use to experiment on different games. It already has a PC and it has a great tri-sync monitor and a good button layout. So, and it starts with a trackball. So if you're trying to get some sort of home arcade that you want to build from and test from, Beachhead 2000 Cabaret, easily the best. Nowadays, I assume we're just going to end up taking the monitor out of it because Global VR has not really made very many games that are worth playing. All right, in front of that, we've got an old Raiden. I bet I bought that because it's in great shape, and those Raiden PCBs have become more and more of a challenge to get. Next to it is a Sega Hangon, kind of in the same vein of Outrun. Really cool game. We had it at Free Play Arlington for a while. I think it's a really great game, but the more weight you put on those steering wheels, the quicker and faster you lose kind of the ability to steer, and you wear these potentiometers out very fast. So it's here, it's working. We're trying to figure out a good plan. Next to it is the famous Katrina Super PAC Man. So I went to law school in New Orleans a little bit after Katrina. I think I started the year or two after Katrina had hit. And things were still very much being rebuilt. And this was one of two machines that were sitting in front of a old grocery store just in uptown New Orleans. And I was able to fortunately get them. Now, in terms of what was really, really amazing about this game is, in terms of aesthetics, the actual art and everything, you know, the entire art package was completely worn and destroyed. But the game, and it hadn't been plugged in a while, we plugged it in, it turned on, and it played perfect. It plays better than any Super Pac Man I've ever played. And so we still have it. We actually got a lot of complaints about it, unfortunately, no matter how many signs we put up about where it came from. About how we need to redo it or repaint it. So we haven't been able to keep it out on the floor. Hopefully one day we get some version of it back. Maybe we'll do a full restoration. I don't know. I think the patina is really neat. In front of that is another Miss Pac-Man. This one was really interesting. I know the story on it. I bought it. It was a pretty inexpensive Miss Pac to purchase, and it had a turbo boost button on the control panel that we still haven't looked at. But our thought is that there was a period of time where these Miss Pacs were coming out with the speed chip, but you could actually activate it on a button on the control panel. We're still looking into that. It's a really cool Miss Pac. It was supposed to go to Denton, but we have so many Miss Pacs that a different one made it. Right next to it is Sky Soldiers, a full kit Sky Soldiers, which is a really cool game, and we probably won't be able to capture it on video. The interesting thing about the Sky Soldiers, it's a full kit, except one side had the side art installed upside down. Really bizarre. No good reason for that, because this was clearly one of the, like a true professional installing it. And I guess they put it on upside down and just said whatever, and put it out in the world, and somehow we ended up with it. Behind it is one of the tragedies of this last year. That's Daytona 2, a much rarer than Daytona USA racer. We have a side-by-side. We were trying to get that out in time for the Daytona USA event we ran in August, I believe. And man, it came the Monday after the event. The event was on a Saturday, it came the Monday. It was supposed to have been the previous Monday. So now we just have it, and we don't have a good plan for it yet. I think it's a great racer, and it's a true sequel to Daytona USA, and it came out at a time when arcades were really dying, but they redid every single level. It's not a re-release, and they've had different re-releases or reimaginings or even the more modern releases. All use pretty much the same courses or similar courses. That is has three courses that you can't play on any other game, I don't think. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong there, but at least at an arcade level, that is as unique of a Daytona that you can find. Just behind them is the Berserk that used to be at Free Play Arlington. We took it off the floor because even though it has one of the period joysticks that we love, it didn't have the big, huge shaft on it. and ultimately we just couldn't get over it. And they've made some reproductions, we just don't find them quite as good. Right next to that is one of the mintiest gauntlets you'll ever see in your life. We used to be against putting gauntlets at free play, but we've tested it now enough that we want to put them in free play locations. So you'll see that one out really soon. Behind that Berserk is a really cool custom dedicated Super Dodgeball that was at our Richardson location for a long time. What we kind of learned is the JAMA version of Super Dodgeball though, while has a ton of nostalgia value, just doesn't quite play as well as the Dodgeball they released for the Neo Geo. And most people preferred that Neo Geo version. So when that one started having a couple of issues, we just decided to pull it from the floor, and right now we don't have a good plan. And I can't tell. Let's see, we've missed this regular MVC. We bought it just as part of our fighting game acquisition spree. It had a good monitor, and that's gotta be a Kicks. So that, I believe, is the title Kicks just behind it. Kicks was a really sad story. We had it out for a few weeks and started having problems with it. Took it out thinking that it would be out for just a second, and the problems turned out to be much worse than we expected. So still sitting here. As of right now, we have all of the parts that we need to fix it. So it arrived actually today as of the shooting. So that'll probably be moved to one of our other locations to be finalized with the techs this week. All right, guys, so this was a quick walkthrough through what is our staging storage. You saw some really cool, interesting pinball, some really interesting games, and probably some games that you want us desperately to get out. So while you're watching these and you're wondering, why don't they have all of these games out? Just right now, every single one of our arcades is at capacity. And you know what the only answer to that is? More arcades. So we'll check back. We're about to hit up another storage, do another walkthrough. But in the meantime, keep watching, click that subscribe button. We'll be here next time.